Yo guys, what's going on? My name is Ryan and welcome back to a brand new video on Hijomeatman News, where today we've got a bit of a discussion, a bit of a let's talk type thing regarding the Austrian manufacturer KTM, because basically a lot of announcements, a lot of things have hit the fan over the last couple of days regarding KTM, and it's all very juicy information. Now, it all started on Thursday when Jack Miller basically didn't exactly deny this whole Lorenzo to Pramac rumour, and then it come out of the woodworks that KTM had actually offered a ride to Jack Miller, which then, if you go fast forward to Sunday evening, then relates to the whole Johann Zarco leaving KTM at the end of this year. But we'll get onto that in a little bit, because we also have some very juicy news regarding KTM and the lower classes, the Moto3 and the Moto2. So we'll start with Moto3. Obviously, KTM has been a part of MotoGP in the lower class for quite a while now, until 2020. They will be no longer running a KTM Moto3 in 2020. It will be a KTM, kind of, but it's going to be under Husqvarna, but it's going to be their own project. So KTM have basically, effectively just turned around to Husqvarna and says, here's a project, would you like to take over it, and you develop it, you do whatever you want to it. And basically Husqvarna has agreed. So Husqvarna will be back in the MotoGP paddock in Moto3 full time with 2 riders. Now, obviously, the Red Bull KTM IO team recently has only fielded 1 rider, Darren Binder last year, Chan Onchu this year. Obviously, they've had a wild card with Dennis Onchu over the last 2 rounds, but next season on the Husqvarna. So very exciting news regarding the lower class in Moto3. Who's going to be the riders on that? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But even bigger news in the Moto2 comes from Stefan Prera, the KTM CEO. He announced on the grid of the Moto E Grand Prix on Sunday morning, 9 o'clock UK time, that KTM was going to be pulling out of Moto2 as a chassis manufacturer. Obviously, as we know, the Angel Nieto squad, the Tech 3 squad, and obviously the KTM, I think the Swiss Innovative KTM as well. I think Lecuona's team runs KTMs. So that's a whole lot of teams who have now got to be looking for other chassis. I'm not quite sure how the Tech 3 deal works, because obviously Tech 3 joined KTM as an option to run KTMs in MotoGP and also run the KTM in Moto2. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. I guess that's it. They're just gonna have to find somebody else. Go back to the Mistral, maybe, go back to their old chassis, which would be a bit of a shame, I think, to see them go back to a Mistral, unless it's properly developed and not like the blue and yellow bikes. Back when Remy Gardner was on it, he was the only one who could really ride the thing. But yeah, definitely an interesting subject to talk about, the Moto2, because obviously they kind of dominated the last half of last season. This season, it's just not been right. With a new Triumph engine, they thought, yeah, we can leave the chassis the same, all the mounting points of the engine can be the same, but then that threw the bike off completely with balance and geometry and the centre of gravity and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely been a tough time for KTM. Brad Binder obviously got their first win of the season at Austria, but that's like 11 rounds too late. I had Brad Binder down as a serious championship contender, and instead he's suffering and he's way down in the championship. He's only got 1 win to his name this year, and only 1 win to KTM as well. So yeah, definitely an interesting topic is the Moto2 thing. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think it's a good idea for KTM to pull out of Moto2 and technically, effectively Moto3 as well, to focus on the MotoGP project? Because that is what they're going to do, and that leads us on nicely to the MotoGP, because obviously KTM contract was signed back in 2016, 2015, that they were going to join in 2017 for 5 years. They've extended that contract to 2025, 2026, so they're going to be in the MotoGP paddock for the next 5 or 6 years, which is great stuff for KTM. Obviously, now their focus is to solely focus on MotoGP, which is obviously why recently they've signed Danny Pedrosa as their test rider. They've also got Mika Kallio. Alex Hoffman still does a bit, I think, for KTM. So they've got quite a strong base structure, kind of, holding that KTM project up, and they're just going to keep adding to it as the year goes by, basically. So that's good. Mika Kallio, Danny Pedrosa, they know exactly how to develop a bike. We've seen that in the past. Pedrosa knows how to ride a bike. It's going to be very exciting to see what KTM has in store, you know, for the future seasons, because it will get there one day. It's getting there now. You know, Pol Espargaro and Johann Zarco, even when it was wet, Zarco showed his and KTM's potential back in Brno, but the problem is just a little bit of inconsistency, I think, from KTM. 1 minute Pol's doing really good, you know, fighting for top 5s, then he's down in the top 10s, then he's scraping for points, then he's back at the front. But I think KTM just need to try and straighten out that little bumpy of, you know, consistency, and just basically get themselves at the front, fight for the top 5s, then go for the podiums, then go for the wins. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not, you know, KTM's development can lure Marc Marquez into the Red Bull KTM squad from Repsol Honda, because I think for Marquez, I think he's going to want to win a championship on 2 different manufacturers. He's going to want to win races on 2 or 3 different manufacturers. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an exciting future for KTM and also for the MotoGP paddock. Now, the final little discussion about KTM is obviously their French rider, Johann Zarco, who last night there was an announcement that he was leaving the team. He terminated his contract. There was speculation all over the place that it was going to be from Silverstone onwards and Miguel Oliveira was replacing him, and then it was going to be at the end of the year. It's now officially confirmed at the end of 2019. So Zarco will see out the season, and then at the end of the year he'll be looking for a ride elsewhere. But it's a very difficult situation for Zarco, because there's only really 1 or 2 bikes left, and that's provided Miller doesn't sign with Pramac, which he has. So technically, officially, there's still a bike left for Zarco, because Miller hasn't yet signed the contract because he hasn't got the contract. But he also says on the evening of Austrian Grand Prix that he has signed the contract, and you know, it will be announced in the coming weeks. But he also said that back in Brno and also Sachsenring. So we have to wait and see what happens with Miller and Pramac with the whole Lorenzo rumour. But there is a possibility that Zarco could be going towards superbikes. Don't know how that's going to work, because he was recently rumoured with Honda and then also rumoured elsewhere in World Superbikes. But now this whole Bautista going to Honda, Redding going to Ducati, it's blown it all out of proportion and out of the water, and we've only got to wait and see what happens. But yeah, Zarco will not be riding the KTM in 2020. Pol Espargaro will have a brand new teammate. Will that be Miguel Oliveira getting a promotion up into the factory team? That's the most likely thing to happen, with Brad Binder going up to Tech 3. That might give Sairin a lifeline to keep his ride in MotoGP. Whether or not that's going to happen or not, we have to wait and see again. But there's also speculation and rumours that Danny Pedrosa has been offered the ride. But we'll have to obviously, like I said, wait and see what happens. Let's not go around spreading rumours. Not that we do that on this channel at all. But yeah, anyway, that's going to be it for today. Nice little KTM discussion video. You've got to let us know down in the comments your thoughts of your opinions on the whole KTM situation, with them leaving the Moto2 and the Moto3 championship to focus solely on the MotoGP, and then losing arguably the rider that they signed to get KTM at the front, Johann Zarco, the man who's obviously stood on the podium, pole positions and stuff like that on the Tech 3 Yamaha. So yeah, it's going to be exciting times ahead to see what happens in the future of MotoGP and KTM. But there we go, that is it for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, smash the like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys on a brand new video very soon. So until then, thank you for watching and goodbye.